Singapore's chewing gum ban. In 1992, Singapore introduced a law that stopped the sale, import, and even possession of chewing gum. And like every law, it wasn't passed randomly. Back then, the country was dealing with a major problem. People were sticking gum everywhere. Public places, sidewalks, benches, buses, trains, offices, everywhere. But it wasn't just unpleasant to see, it was also causing real damage. In fact, companies were having to spend lots of time and money scraping gum off surfaces because of the damage it was causing. So the Singaporean government took what might seem like a pretty drastic step. They decided to ban chewing gum completely to keep public spaces clean and to cut down on maintenance costs. Now, the law is so strict that if you're caught smuggling or selling gum, you can face a fine of about $75,000 or even jail time. Interestingly, this ban has become part of Singapore's image and is often one of the first things people learn about the country. Over time, Singapore did ease up a bit on the ban, but only slightly. In 2004, the government made an exception for chewing gums used for therapeutic reasons, like dental gums that help people stop smoking. But even at that, these therapeutic gums can only be sold by licensed pharmacists, and you need a prescription. For locals, the law is just part of life, and most people have come to accept it as part of Singapore's rules and lifestyle. But for tourists, especially those who can't imagine not having a piece of gum in their bag, it's something to keep in mind before visiting. But let's be honest, a clean gum-free environment does have its perks. And even though the law might seem extreme, it's helped shape Singapore into one of the cleanest cities in the world. Switzerland's toilet flushing restriction. Another surprising law that would drop your jaw to the floor is one found in Switzerland. It would shock you to know that in many apartment buildings in the country, it's against the rules to flush your toilet after 10 p.m. Switzerland, as we all know, is famous for its dedication to peace, quiet, and a high standard of living. But to maintain this, certain restrictions are put in place. This is why some apartments, particularly older ones with thin walls or shared plumbing systems, have introduced quiet hours to prevent late-night noise. These quiet hours usually begin at 10 p.m. and last until 7 a.m. In this period, tenants are expected to keep noise to a minimum, avoiding loud activities like vacuuming, using washing machines, or playing loud music, and even avoiding flushing toilets to prevent any sound that might disturb nearby residents trying to sleep. I'm sure you're bewildered by this rule, because one doesn't always have control over their toilet time. But for many Swiss residents, the law is just part of their culture of mutual respect and consideration. And while it might sound inconvenient, most Swiss apartment buildings that enforce quiet hours tend to have leniency for emergencies or special circumstances. So no one is likely to complain if there's an unavoidable reason to flush. By the way, are you looking to change or advance your career seamlessly? Sign up with our partner for today, Course Careers. It features courses in IT, accounting, data analytics, software development, and more, taught by experts in each respective field. No degree required. They also assist with job hunting to help you land the best positions. Simply click on the link in the description to get started today. The best part, they offer free mini-courses to help you determine if the career and course are the right fit for you. That said, back to the video. Greece's high heels ban. When visiting Greece, you might want to think twice before wearing your favorite pair of high heels, especially if your plan is to tour historic sites like the Acropolis. This is because Greece has a rule about wearing high heels at many ancient landmarks. And while it may sound odd, it actually makes a lot of sense. The ban was introduced in 2009, largely to protect Greece's treasured ruins. Now, many of these sites are thousands of years old and are made of materials that can be surprisingly fragile. High heels, with their sharp-pointed bottoms, put concentrated pressure on the ground, which can easily damage stone surfaces and erode ancient structures over time. Also, there are some popular tourist sites where there's constant foot traffic, and even minor wear and tear can add up fast. So wearing high heels in these locations not only threatens the preservation of these sites, but also poses a risk to visitors. This is because the sometimes slippery surfaces of ancient ruins can make walking in heels very dangerous and can lead to slips, falls, or injuries. So to preserve the integrity of these historical sites, authorities decided to implement the rule against high heels. In fact, when you visit places like the Acropolis, you might even see signs that advise against wearing high heels. For many people, this rule is not just a restriction, but also a reminder of just how delicate and valuable these historic sites in Greece are. So if you're planning a trip to Greece, consider swapping those heels for something comfortable and practical. Not only will you be helping to protect these heritage sites, but you'll also be much more comfortable exploring the sites. the child naming restrictions in Denmark. If you think Greek law is weird, wait till you hear what happens in Denmark. Here, you can't just name your kid whatever you like. Nope, the Danish government keeps a tight grip on baby names with an official list of about 7,000 approved options. That's 3,000 for boys and 4,000 for girls. The country has laws that limit parents' freedom to choose just any name they like for their kids. Instead, they have to pick a name from the official list. So what happens if you're dead set on naming your bundle of joy something that's not on the list? Well, you'd have to submit it to approval to your local church or to the Ministry of Ecclesiastical Affairs. Then, the name would be reviewed. I know this sounds too restrictive, but in actual fact, the government plays name police for a good reason. They want to make sure no kid ends up with a name that will get them bullied on the playground or cause awkward moments during job interviews. So names like anus or monkey are definite no-goes. Names that are spelled in non-standard ways are also denied. Now, this naming law isn't some new trend. It's been around since the early 1900s. Back then, somebody probably was named Turnip, and the government said, "Okay, we need to do something about this." Despite the restrictions, there's actually a fair amount of flexibility, and parents can submit creative names, as long as they're not likely to cause harm. In fact, recently, names influenced by other cultures, like Noah or Luna, have become more accepted as Denmark becomes more diverse. But for the most part, traditional names are encouraged. In case you're wondering how the people cope with this law, most Danes actually don't mind this system. They see it as part of their cultural identity. The whole process might seem a bit intense if you're used to complete naming freedom. But think about it. While parents in other countries are giving their kids names like hashtag or cheese, Danish children are sailing through life with reasonable, well-thought-out names that won't make substitute teachers do a double-take during roll call. So, if you're planning to have a baby in Denmark, maybe start browsing the approved names list early. And if your heart is set on naming your child after your favorite social media platform or dairy product, you might need a backup plan. Or maybe consider getting a pet instead, since Denmark is much more relaxed about what you name your goldfish. Poland's ban on Winnie the Pooh. In a small town in Poland, there was once a surprising controversy over Winnie the Pooh, the famous bear loved by children worldwide. And no, it wasn't about him stealing honey. It was about his pants. Or rather, his lack of pants. This ban arose around 2014 in the town of Tushin, where council members were discussing which cartoon characters would be suitable to decorate the new children's playground. While characters like Mickey Mouse and others were good enough, Winnie the Pooh's outfit was just too scandalous. They felt that the character with his bare lower half was a little inappropriate, particularly since he's often portrayed as gender neutral. In their view, Pooh's lack of pants was not a good choice for a children's role model, and they worried it might be confusing or even embarrassing. I guess it didn't occur to them that bears in the wild don't wear pants either. Here's the thing, it wasn't a countrywide ban. While the rest of Poland was perfectly fine with Pooh's wardrobe choices, this one town decided to make it their hill to die on. Before long, the news was everywhere, and soon the whole world was having a good laugh about the Polish town that was scared of a pantless bear. Journalists probably had a field day writing these headlines too, because the town's decision sparked a lot of debate, both within the town and internationally. Many people thought the decision was unusual and perhaps a little overly cautious, because we're talking about a bear who gets stuck in honeypots and considers think to be his workout routine. His lack of pants is probably the least concerning thing about him. Besides, he does wear a shirt, which is more than most cartoon animals can say. Essentially, the ban highlighted how much different communities consider the messages that children's media might send. For the council members in Tushin, the intention was to ensure that young children were exposed to characters that fully aligned with the values they wanted to emphasize. But the ban didn't stick around for long, though. Eventually, Pooh prevailed and went back to doing what he does best, being a lovable pants-free bear who occasionally gets stuck in doorways after eating too much honey. And to date, he still appears in children's media across Poland. That's it on today's video. Which of these laws do you find hardest to believe? Let us know in the comments. Also, please like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. See you next time.